Hey, welcome in, especially those on the replay. This will be primarily for the Facebook folks. Um, Welcome. It's the Sit Down and Heal podcast. My name is Coach Derek. We'll start in a few minutes here and I'll officially intro the show. I want to make sure that it's propagating everywhere. So give me like a minute. Let me make sure that it's going live on Facebook and YouTube. And of course, this part. So Facebook looks good. And YouTube is the primary. So that should be also good. And we'll get into this topic. We're going to talk about conflict. This is something that everybody deals with, especially if you're in a relationship, friendship. Conflict happens, but what are we going to do about it? So I give it like a minute. Hopefully everybody's amazing. Like I said, this banter part of it will be cut off for the actual live podcast, but I always like to make sure that you guys are hearing me and everything is working before we get into it. But we're going to get into it. This one's going to be another Coach Tanya's in the building. This one's going to be a freestyle. Since y'all tend to like those. So we'll get started in about 90 seconds because I don't want to waste anyone's time, especially my own. And we're going to get this thing going. We'll see how long it goes. But we're going to talk about conflict and building trust. They go hand in hand. But there's some other tones and some other things that we're going to talk about tonight that fit into it. So let me just double check one more thing. Make sure we're good to go. And we know that Facebook is working because Tanya is here. And we will get this show on the road, as they say. All right, let's do this. So you're going to give me about 30 seconds, and then we will start the official show. So stand by. Welcome to another episode of Sit Down and Heal with Coach Derek. And my name is Coach Derek, and I am your host. I'm a certified healing journey coach and relationship coach, which means I bridge the two. That means I help you heal first, and then I send you back outside into a better, healthier relationship or dating situation. And even if your goal isn't to be in a relationship, becoming a better version of yourself is still a win. And my goal when I teach you, when I coach you, is to send you back outside with more healing wrapped around you than trauma. Tonight's conversation is going to be something that a lot of you are going to need. I've done these shows in the past, but nothing concise like this. So this is going to be good. So we're talking about navigating conflict and building trust is the title of the show, but there's a lot of nuance in the middle. So bear with me. We're about to get into this. I'm glad you guys are here. Keep coming back. This podcast is broadcast live on YouTube every Tuesday, YouTube and Facebook every Tuesday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And within 24 hours of this broadcast, we will be propagated out to all of the major podcasting platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, Pandora, all of your favorite places. So wherever you land, I will be there. All you have to do is type in Sit Down and Heal, and it'll magically pop up and your life will change. If you need to find me for coaching, you can go to my website, www.sitdownandheal.com, and everything, and that's when I mean everything I have going on is right there. Also, we have a school community where we actually get coaching by group, by community. So some of you don't want to learn by yourself. Now you can learn with some friends. So let's get into this. Conflict. It's one of my favorite topics. When we talk about navigating conflict, it's really bigger than we think it is, but it's a lot simpler to understand the way that I'm going to frame it out tonight. because a lot of times we think of conflict like fighting, right? Disagreements, fighting. But it goes a little bit deeper than that, right? We think about people that we don't get along with. We think about our spouse that doesn't really get us. We think about, people raising their voice, pissing you off. Conflict is ugly, right? It's ugly, but it's also necessary, right? Because all conflict isn't bad. It depends on how you frame it out in your brain, right? So pay attention to when I say frame it out in your brain. Let's go there. When I say frame it out in your brain, then we have to think about what version of you is entering the conflict. Is it the adult you? Is it your inner child, right? We're going to talk about this. Is it a combination of the two? So think about conflict like this. And remember, the tone of this is navigating conflict and building trust. So that means we're going to eventually segue into the trust part, and we're going to intermingle them so that all of it makes sense. So the first thing we got to think about is, and what I always tell people who are actively dating, who meet people that they quote unquote like, is one of the first areas you want to talk about is, how do you show up in conflict? What's your conflict style? Do you need space? Do you need to handle it right now? Which type of person are you, so that when eventually a conflict happens, you will understand the person better, right? Most of us never did this, right? We just got into it and we fell into the relationship and figured it out, or not, right? A lot of conflict hurts. It hurts when somebody undermines you. It hurts when somebody belittles you. It hurts when someone yells at you. It hurts when things just aren't peaceful for some of us, right? So we have to ask ourselves, and what I always try to teach you guys is, a lot of us, most of us have a childhood wound or another. Some of us have several. One of the first places that you will notice as an adult where that child is and what it is during conflict. So think about that. If I have a childhood wound, but I'm unaware that it's there, and someone says the first place that it will show up recognizably is during conflict, that means we got to put a lot of emphasis on conflict as a means for us to not just heal, but for us to relationship better, whether it's friend, parent, or romantic relationship. Conflict plays a big part if the inner child is intertwined into the conflict, because we know how well, some of you do. We know how big childhood wounds and inner child wounds and trauma and all of that plays into our lives, right? You should know, because y'all should be following me and looking at all my stuff, right? Right. If the inner child is present during your conflicts, then you will never see conflict the same ever again once you learn this, what I'm going to teach you tonight. So we're not going to dig into the actual wounds. We're going to give you the cliff notes, right? So let's say, and this one is one of the biggest ones, which is the abandonment wound, right? So let's say you have an abandonment wound, right? And you have an anxious attachment, right? And you go into a conflict with the person you love or a person you love, and you start to react to how they're treating you. You react to them leaving the room to go cool off. You don't know where it's coming from. But in your mind, you're like, where they going? Is it me? Do they not love me? What's that voice? It's the inner child talking to you. You're not crazy. It's afraid. You're in the middle of a conflict and your inner child gets scared and you react because of it. So think about this. If your inner child is superseding your mind, your logical adult brain that's 50 years old, 40 years old, 30 years old, that inner child is so scared that it's going to react. Some of us react, our trauma response is anger. Some of us fall back. Some of us just don't know what to say. We freeze. Remember, I'm doing this slowly on purpose. You're in a conflict or a disagreement with your partner. The inner child is afraid because it got triggered. Remember, we did the trigger show. When the inner child gets triggered during conflict, something interesting happens that a lot of us don't lend credence to because it takes a different level of like training your mind. Underneath the inner child in you that is afraid of that person leaving you, even if it's just to another room, what we don't realize is that there's not just one inner child, there's two. And the reason why that person left the room is because something happened in that conflict to trigger their inner child. So now the two combatants are not 40, they're 10. And a lot of times you can visibly see the body language of a child and an adult during conflict, right? Folding their arms, poking out their lip, running off to another room or a corner. It's the same behavior that we did when we were kids, right? Shrinking yourself because it's too much emotional energy that I just need to just not say anything and hope it goes away. That's a child. So imagine if we saw, even in our mind, that those are kids fighting, then the adults really need to make an adult decision and try to minimize that, right? So we're talking about awareness. We're talking about healing, understanding that inner child, the shadow work, all of that stuff, because if not, you will be destined to repeat history. And this is what happens underneath the hood. When you have two inner children fighting, but you don't have any resolve to it, it then appends to the existing trauma and you hold it until the next conflict. And then you hold it again to the next conflict. And then something interesting happens. You start to get pissed off because they keep bringing up old stuff. But what really is happening is that they have not healed from the old stuff. And that trigger of that inner child, it's still fresh because it keeps happening. So they have to address it from the past because it's still lingering. It never got solved. It never got purged and pushed away. It sat. So as long as it's sitting, to me, it's just like it happened yesterday. This is how trauma works. It feels like it's happening right now. If any of you have ever had someone that have done things to hurt you, whether intentionally or not, those things sit on you. It even informs how you see them. Like, ugh, but that's your husband or your wife. That stuff sits on you so long that when you're having an argument or a conflict, it becomes a culmination of all of it because it never left. So we know sometimes to be on the receiving end of all of that coming out at once could hurt. Imagine this. Let me paint a picture for you. Imagine a world where your significant other held on to stuff. They didn't tell you it hurt. They just held it, right? They they got triggered. It hurt, but you don't know. 6 months later, you got to pay for 6 months worth of them keeping it in. Now remember, you have your own inner child whose job is just to feel safe. Traumatically dysfunctional, it's looking for safety no matter how it can get it. But think about this. What do you think happens to your inner child once that other person explodes one day and gives you 6 months worth of stuff? It's going to trigger you into your own trauma response. And then there's no solution because now you got to fight. Now you have to be defensive because you don't even know where it came from. And they are going to act like it's still about the current issue, and it's not. But you can see that their visceral response is a little bit more than the present thing that's happening. And we ask ourselves, why? Why are you bringing up old stuff? Why? I thought we was talking about this one thing. What's going on? What is going on? What's going on is that inner child was triggered a long time ago, and they didn't have the wherewithal to share it with you because they didn't feel safe to share it with you because you are the one who triggered them. But you don't know that you triggered them, so you went about your life as normal, not knowing. It's not fair. This is why understanding communication and awareness is and comprehension of that communication is paramount, right? Sometimes you got to go talk to a counselor or a coach together to figure out how to put that Rosetta Stone in the middle so that y'all can figure it out. But the most simplest thing you can do, even if you didn't get help, is to realize that there are two inner children being triggered. And just see it in your mind a little bit. Like maybe it's not about the thing that I'm mad about. Maybe it's because I feel abandoned. I feel betrayed by the action, not an actual betrayal. Listen to my words. You feel betrayed. Remember, we did a show about cognitive distortions and your mind telling you something, but you don't have any evidence, but it believes that it's fact because of things that you've been through. You're putting that on your significant other. Let's even go a little level deeper. When you have the cognitive distortion and you project that onto your partner, you could be inadvertently triggering their trauma response. They don't even know it's there until you trigger it. And then when they have their trauma response, which could be anger, right? Could be fight, could be flight. What is that? I need for y'all. Let me reframe this because I think y'all need to really understand this. You got the original trigger. You then lash out at your partner who then gets triggered by you. When they respond to you triggering them, it re-triggers you again. And it becomes a cycle until y'all get tired of fighting and then y'all just gonna give up. Have some makeup sex or whatever y'all do, and then you're gonna brush it under the rug. Guess what's happening to the trauma? It's appending itself. It never went anywhere now. You never resolved it. How do you navigate that cycle of terror? It's been going on for years. This is just how we are. He always got to be right, so I just let him be right. She always be yelling at me, so I just shut up because I don't even want to hear it. There's no resolution in that. You know the other word? Not resolution, resentment. That's what's loading. You want to know why your partner different? Because they got to find a way to cope with that. You know how people always say, talk it out, they can be better? Talking it out with the person that keeps triggering you is kind of hard, ain't it? Because your inner child is afraid that trigger is going to come again. So where you going to go? What are you going to do about it? How do you get rid of it? How do you get it off of you? What's your coping mechanism of choice? Is it other people? Is it liquor? Drugs? Some people cope with anger. Y'all know people go outside and they just looking for a fight to make them feel better about themselves. Isn't that weird? I grew up with a couple of fellas that they looked for fights. They used to be like, "Oh, we going out to have fun tonight?" And they be like, "Yeah, I hope nobody do nothing because I'm ready." And I'm like, "Ready? What are you ready for?" And why? Wait, I'm with you. Hold on. They're gonna be looking at me too. I won't make it home. How are you going to cope with all of those things? Let's even frame it a different way. What if all of those layered traumas came from your mama. What you gonna do about it? Or your daddy? It's still sitting there. You may not lash out or have a trauma response to your parents, but somebody gonna get it. You know when people go out in this dating pool or they go out and meet people, it's still there. How you gonna treat them? And it doesn't mean that you're gonna be mean. You could just be the person that just doesn't want any type of conflict. I just want peace. I'm not gonna say anything. You're going into a relationship at a deficit because now you don't even have effective communication on day one. Because you still got all of that stuff packed on for so many years that you just held inside. But what we do is instead of healing from it, we go try to find somebody else to make us feel good enough that we don't think about it anymore. That's how we date. Until such time that person isn't feeding you because they're human and it's not their job to do it, they're going to accidentally trigger something. And you're going to be like, what the heck? He was making me feel, I was high until I wasn't. Now I'm not high again. Now I got to chase the high. And you better do what I need you to do in order to keep me high. My expectations need to be met. Sound familiar? And if my expectations aren't met, I'm going to be mad at you. It's your fault that you didn't make me feel good. It's kind of weird, right? So now let's not forget the other part of this show. Trust. You know how hard trust is when you got all of that going on? Not trust big you, trust little you. Trust inner child. Remember, the inner child's job is to feel safe by any means necessary. You find someone that makes you feel safe, even if it's in the short term, the inner child is happy. Even if it's dysfunctional, it's what it knows love is. So if that inner child is happy and then that person does something to disrupt that happiness by triggering you, I don't trust you anymore. Until you do something to reignite that high. I don't trust you to keep me safe. See, this word safety is really big. It is probably one of the biggest things that most of us look for, even if we don't say it. Men and women, you want to feel safe. Well, when you are triggered into a trauma response, your trust level goes down a little bit because there's fear now that it may happen again. A lot of times, let's say a man in this case is really not wanting anything to mess up his peaceful state. So if conflict happens, even if it's constructive, he's going he's going to choose to say, you got it. Don't even worry about it. We good. Nothing gets solved. But if that the conflict annoys him enough, now we're stacking it again. What might he do? He may choose to hang out with his friends 3 times a week instead of 1. Right? I talk about this a lot. He thinks that he just needs to take the edge off. That's what they say. I just need to take the edge off. I'm gonna go get a drink with the boys and come back. What he's really doing is coping with the things that are unresolved. And so here, what I try my best to do is if we can have an understanding of those things that are bubbling underneath the surface, then we don't have to have so many harsh conflicts. You can have healthier dialogue around the conflict, right? Because if you think about it, right, when people say, attack the problem and not the person, right? Those words Attack the problem and not the person, and then you'll have healthier dialogue, right? We hear this all around the internet, right? Therapists or whatever. The reason why this is true, it all stems back to the inner child. I need for y'all to hear me when I say this. When someone says attack the problem and not the person, it's really a lesson in understanding the inner child. And this is why. If you trigger my inner child, I feel hurt. I feel betrayed. I feel unloved. I feel not worthy enough. So if you attack my inner child, I'm going to fight you. But if we attack the problem, the inner child feels safe, and then we can have a healthier dialogue. Because most hurt isn't hurting you, the big person, is hurting the little you that's coming out from the big person. Someone that lashes out in anger all the time, that's the little person defending itself. It's a part of you. And once you realize it's a part of you, then you can learn how to manage it better with help. But it's always there. People who get triggered by people criticizing them, even healthy critiques of you, you feel attacked. And people who do get triggered by criticism, their first go-to is to over-explain why it's not true. Over-explain. No, I'm not like that. They be like, I got proof. No, I'm not. Look, let me tell you why. It's a little kid doing that. Excuse me. So we got to think about this. If that little kid is running your life and it's showing up in all your conflicts, then it's imperative that you do the shadow work. It's imperative that you understand this inner child, or you will be this same person reacting the same way in every relationship. It's not going to be just that one. It's going to follow you everywhere you go. Everywhere you go. So much so, like I say on this show all the time, it becomes a part of your character. You even tell people that you're like this, and this is just who you are. But there's a sweet spot whereby both individuals have even just a basic understanding of this, that you can determine how you engage each other with the new knowledge that you have gained about your partner. So it doesn't mean no conflict. It means less hurtful conflict, because hurt doesn't go away. Just like trauma, it just sits until you resolve it. A lot of relationships break up just because of unresolved conflict, because it hurts. You know how big hurt is? If I have an abandonment wound and I feel like you leaving me, and then my cognitive distortion comes in and say, them going to the other room, it means they don't love me. You just already putting it on. They don't love me. Now, if you believe in your mind that they don't love you because they went to the other room to cool off, how are you going to cope with it? You going to talk to them? No, you're not. You're going to figure out another way. And that is the path to destruction. People will always say, go talk to them. Just go sit down and talk. It's hard to do when that's the person that's been triggering you for the past year. Even if they don't know they did it, your body feels it. A lot of us shrink ourselves so much into a point where conflict almost never happens, but that's also unhealthy, because it's a lot of avoidance of issues that can be resolved just because you're afraid that things aren't always going to be quiet. Life isn't always quiet. You got to accept it and learn how to move through it and not around it. And you'll be better for it. So when we talk about building trust, even if the triggering offenses happen, even if they hurt, When that person gains an understanding of it and they're able to help resolve through it, the trust goes up. It's just like vulnerability, right? We'll talk about men again. A man sharing his vulnerability and feeling safe to be vulnerable with you, the trust goes up because the inner child feels soothed again. Oh, I hope y'all caught that. The trust goes up when the inner child feels safe. Now, we can talk about all the societal and cultural things that would make you not want to speak up or whatever, but at the end of the day, it's a soothing, it's a safety. Safety, safety, safety. If you don't feel safe and your partner is the person that made you not feel safe, you're not going to feel safe. I hope right? Trust goes down. And you're living in the same house, afraid to talk to the person that you love the most. You're not going anywhere. You're just afraid to be triggered again. Sometimes the trigger is you feeling like you don't have a voice, right? Let me give you a real scenario that y'all gonna really understand because it just hit me. I just got a download. You get a lot of downloads when you have a bald head because there's no barrier, right? It just comes straight through. People who feel like they don't have a voice. You could be in a scenario where your partner and you are having a kind of back and forth. You could be like, let me just tell you what's really going on, and I just want to, give you the all the details. And I don't want to hear what you have to say. Just leave me alone. I don't even want the truth. Just shut up. I don't want it. Now, if you have a wound of not feeling good enough, of not having a voice from childhood, this will trigger you. Those words will trigger you. And the person who doesn't want to hear you may have a wound where your honesty may be a critique of them, and their wound is that they have a fear of being criticized because they grew up in an environment where they had to be perfect. I hope y'all catching this. If I grow up in an environment where I have to kind of overdo and almost be perfect with everything I do, your criticism of me is going to feel like an attack. And all you're doing is you're just being honest about what you feel, but they won't let you say it. And you having a wound of not having a voice is going to crush you. And the person who feels like they don't have a voice will never confront you in the way that they should because they're afraid. You think they're going to fully trust that person moving forward? Or are they going to tread lightly on eggshells forever? So it's imperative that we learn about these subconscious things, the inner child, the attachment styles, conflict. There's conflict styles. Maybe I'll do a show on conflict styles. There's conflict styles. There's even apology styles I'm learning recently. So maybe we'll do that on TikTok. So stay tuned. What if you could discuss this during the honeymoon phase? What if you could discuss this after you and your partner have hurt each other for years and you have the aha moment? I just heard Coach Derek say it's really our inner children. We need to figure this out because I don't like it. And I know you don't either. I can see you backing down. I know you're not like me, but I need for you to meet me somewhere in the middle when it's not happening. Maybe we need help to figure this out, like some more tools, because I don't want to leave. Do you? Right? Sometimes it's just a deficit in tools that we never got. Sometimes Who would have taught us the better tools? Maybe we're mimicking things we saw from our caretakers, and it's just what we own, the only way we know. Had a loud mama, I'm loud. It's just who I am. It doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be. It's one of the main reasons why I coach, because there's a deficit of information and tools that if we had them, the trajectory of our lives and our relationship would change fundamentally. You know how many relationships, and I talk about this a lot, and I'm gonna start to slowly start to land this plane in a minute, right? You know how many couples that had two amazing people, two good-hearted people that will destroy each other with the most pain they ever felt simply because their inner child was triggered and they kept responding to it over and over again. Now they're enemies for life. Maybe somebody stepped out because they didn't know any other place to go to feel safe. Now they're a cheater. They destroyed their partner and didn't have to be that way. See, we could do a cheating show, but we ain't gonna do that. We ain't gonna do that no time soon. A lot of people who do these things are really coping. It's ugly and we don't condone it, but it's a coping mechanism. It's like being backed up against a wall and you want to have a voice, but you can't. Sometimes. Sometimes. That healthy communication is paramount. And again, I repeat, most of us don't have the tools to do it right. We brush it under the rug. A lot of relationships will be saved just by having better communication. Because once resentment sets in, once you check out, it's hard to bring it back. And checking out could be a result of just being triggered too much without resolution. Think about it. How many people got into a relationship and that person reacted to them wrong a couple times and then you just always shut up after that point? You shrink yourself because that's your way of dealing with trauma. It's shrinking, letting it go, giving chances instead of addressing it. Why are you scared of your husband or your wife? You got to ask yourself that. Why am I scared to talk to them? We'll say things like, I pick and choose my battles, but you've been picking to not address it for 10 years. Like, how many battles are you picking? You're not picking. You're choosing misery. Think about the language around pick and choose my battle. I already know how they're going to react. They're going to be pissed off if I tell them how I feel. That's your significant other. But I don't want them to be pissed off. I just want to tell them that I didn't like this thing. And I just want to let them know so they know how I feel. But I know they're going to be pissed off at me. So I'm just never going to say it. Yeah, it's the love of your life. You're scared. You picked them too. Ooh. They just always get pissed off and they start yelling at me. Wait, your husband yells at you. You like that? Nah, but that's just who he is. That's how he is. So that's how I let it go. So now I'm looking at you. What's in your past that makes you think it's okay to deal with that? Whew. That's a whole nother show, right? You've accepted someone yelling at you and it became normal for you to hear it and you say that's just who they are. And that's why I'm not going to say how I feel anymore. Ever. Y'all be blaming it on marriage. Nah. It goes deeper than that. Way deeper. So when you're thinking about this communication thing, it goes deeper than you just being pissed off. There's something being triggered in you to cause a reaction. And let's say you're in a relationship with somebody that just disrespects you every day. I'm still looking at you. You're still there. There's something your inner child needs to be attached. We got to work on it. If nothing else, then having the strength to advocate for yourself, even if you don't leave. How do you get that strength? How do you build it up? You got to heal first. You got to understand that inner child. You got to have the strength and the peace of mind to say, nah, that ain't, nah, husband, no, wife. I heard you, but can we step into the other room? Little Johnny's upstairs asleep. I'm not here for conflict. But what you just said affected me in a way, and we need to address it so it doesn't happen again. Because I don't want us to hurt each other. You see what I just did there? I didn't attack the person. We have to figure out how this doesn't happen again together. It's little changes that takes people's defenses down. Because some people, when you say, I don't like what you said and it hurt me, they're going to be like, no, I didn't. Then it starts to become two little kids fighting on the playground again. We too can learn how to control and manage this when it happens. See, this is the part that people miss, right? And then I'm going to really land the plane. When you meet someone and you're really happy and you're in the honeymoon phase, right? You think everything is bliss. Why not have a rules of engagement conversation early? I know the conflict will happen one day because we're human. What are we going to do when it happens so we don't hurt each other? Because Coach Derek said that's the path right there to destruction is when we hurt each other, but we don't say it. I don't ever want to be scared to talk to you. I know how I am. I used to shrink myself in relationships before. This is the self-awareness. Now you get to have the verbiage around it. I don't want to feel like I have to shrink myself. So this is what I need from you. And vice versa. Like you get to ask these questions and manage yourself around it early. But like I said, even if you're already in a situation where you don't want to leave your relationship, you can just throw these new tools. Well, not just what I said, but like if you got some coaching or some counseling, you got a third party in there to get you some new tools, it could change your relationship fundamentally forever to go into a different trajectory than where it was heading. Sometimes these tweaks are the difference between marriage and divorce. Just these little awarenesses, well, not a little, but big awarenesses about yourself and your partner changes everything. So why wouldn't we want to do that? So, and then again, with this awareness and this healthier dialogue, the trust goes up. Right? Now I'm not scared to talk to you. Let's go, let's chop it up. Everything changes from that moment you decide to heal that. It's going to be all over you. You'll be in a relationship with somebody that can tell you when you get triggered. They know exactly when you get triggered and how you're going to react to it, but y'all still keep going through it. It's crazy. So anyway, I'm going to land my plane. I appreciate you guys for tuning in again for another week with me, Coach Derek, your favorite healing journey coach. And we'll do this again every Tuesday, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Make sure you join my school online community, choose your tier, and we just going to get busy. Go to www.sitdownandheal.com and you can get everything that I do. I also go live on TikTok periodically, so follow me there. Sit Down and Heal on all platforms, all as one word. I will see you guys next time, and maybe you'll come and listen and watch enough episode that you'll eventually be inspired to sit down and heal. I'll talk to you guys soon. Have an amazing night.